Seeing how bad games are nowadays, I decided to make this personal and make my own game. The only problem is that I'm a busy man and I don't have that much time in my hands. With that in mind, I set a goal. I have 7 days to make a game. After a little bit of research, I found out that the first thing that you need to do in order to make a game is choose the engine that you will use. The engine is a program in which you will make your game, and there are a lot of them. You can choose to use Unreal, Unity, Godot, and many others. You can even be crazy and make your own engine, which I highly don't recommend, because that's just insane. If you want to know which engine you should use, there are many videos on YouTube, but at the end of the day, you can choose whatever engine do you want, and it won't make that much of a difference. In my case, I choose Unreal. After choosing the engine, the next logical step is to install the engine and create a project. Now I have everything set up to make my game, so I will just see a quick tutorial, just to learn how the engine works. Oh, fuck. So, first things first, I learned how to move the camera around. After that, I went ahead and even learned how to create and move an object. And also, obviously, learned a little bit about the interface of the engine. And although this doesn't look much, it was it for the first day. And on day 2 I started off by learning how to rotate the sun, which is pretty cool, I like it. And yesterday I learned how to create and move objects, but the objects are kinda dull. So today I learned how to change materials. The thing is that to change a material I need to have a material, and there are only 2 ways to have a material: to steal one, which is a great option, or to create one. I'm obviously gonna steal, but I at least want to know how to create one, just in case. And it wasn't that complicated. And well, it ain't much, but it's honest work. So let's hit sec and see you tomorrow. On day 3 I started off learning about material parameters, and after that I went ahead and learned how to import meshes. And meshes are basically what objects are called inside the engine. A table is a mesh, an enemy, a slime, a orc is a mesh. Everything is a mesh. Just like my head, it's a mess. Alright, that was bad. So after that I learned how to create and use a master material. And what is the difference between a material and a master material? There are basically no differences. You just call it a master material because it is a material that you will use to make other materials. You will basically just copy paste this material and change a few parameters in order to make a brand new material. And this is great because you won't need to make a new material every time. This will save you a lot of time down the line. And even though it is cool and all to mess around with materials and meshes, it's also cool to know how lighting works. And here on Unreal 5, that is version that I'm using, there is a brand new way that you can use to light your scene, and it is called Lumen. In the past versions, you only had one option, that was baked lighting. And now you have 2, that is Lumen and Baked Light. And there are a ton of difference between the 2. Each one have their pros and cons. Lumen is basically real-time lighting. Your game now is capable of calculating lighting in real time, so you will have much more accurate lighting. And it's a little bit hard to explain, but for example, in past versions it would be hella hard to make an object that moves have a good lighting. But nowadays it is possible. You can have an object that is completely movable and lighting will be good. These are the pros of Lumen. And what about Baked Light? Well, one con is that you can't make objects with that light move, otherwise it would look weird. You would move an object and the shadow wouldn't follow the object, if that makes sense. But it also has his advantage. While Lumen is hella heavy for your computer, Baked Light, on the other hand, is light. And you may ask, so which one should I use? That is simply both. For some cases, you should use Baked Light, and for others, you are better off using Lumen. And now, with all these nerd things out of the way, let's create a landscape, because after all we need something in which our character can walk on. And it took longer than expected, so see you tomorrow. On day 4 I finished creating landscape, and even though it took some time to learn how to use the tool to create landscapes, after I learned how to use it, it was really fun. You basically can shape the floor the way you want, and that's cool. And do you know what is also cool? You. But that's not what I'm gonna talk about. I'm gonna talk about another tool that I learned, that is the foliage tool. So this tool is basically used to populate your landscape. not with people, but with grass and trees and things like that. It is a tool that you will use to make your landscape look more natural, otherwise it would just be dirt and that's all. But you know, until now I really didn't make a game, I just learned how to make things. So let's start creating a minigame. And in Unreal you have two options. You can either make a game with blueprints or writing a script. I'm not a programmer and I don't know how to program in C++, so I'm gonna use blueprints. And if you are asking, blueprints are little boxes that you can connect to other little boxes and it will make things in your game. It's just basic programming that isn't basic, but it's easier to use. And you don't need to actually write code, which is cool. So, first and foremost, in order to create this minigame, first I need to create a terrain in which the minigame will take place. And that's what I did. After that, the next logical step is obviously to make obstacles. That will be just giant sticks. But for now these sticks doesn't do anything. They just stay still and that's it. This is no fun. I want our character to die when you hit an obstacle. So first I needed to learn how to make a character die. And after thinking a little bit about it, what is cool about dying? Nothing. But in games at least, when you die, you usually become a ragdoll, and the ragdolls are cool. Now, every time our character hits an obstacle, he will die. Not really, he will just become a ragdoll. That's cool. But what is the point of having obstacles if you don't have a goal? There is no point. So let's make one. And this giant trophy looks good as a goal. And let's make the game write a text every time we go near the goal. And now, every time I go near the goal... And now, every time I go near the goal, this beautiful text will appear. Nice. Time has been passing really fast, and we are already on day 6, so now we only have 2 days to finish this game. With that in mind, it's probably a good idea to start making the actual game. Now that we have all this knowledge on how to make some things, let's get right into it. I started by creating a brand new project, and to prepare all the basic things, the sky, the sun, things like that. With this, I prepared the terrain. The thing is that this is gonna be the final terrain, so it is going to take some time. I started by making the large details, which means that I started by making the mountains, things like that. And it might not look like it, but it took quite a little bit of time. And after I had the terrain more or less the way I wanted it to be, I went ahead and got some meshes on the internet. Alright, I just stole some mountains on Google. And I used these mountains on the background, just to make it more aesthetic. With large details on, I went ahead and needed to resize everything. Yeah, I literally needed to resize the whole thing, because not me didn't use a human reference. So this was it for day 6. And now, on day 7, I went ahead and made medium details. And the medium details are things like leaves, huge boulders, trees, and even a castle. Yeah, I also made a castle. Okay, not actually made isn't the right word. I just gently moved the castle from a person's world to my own world. And let's be real, it's final day, I didn't have time to make a castle from scratch. So, thank you very much for the castle, I appreciate it. After that I stole another castle and made some little modifications to it. And now we are finally going to the small details, that are basically grass, branches, as name says, small details. And with this done, we are basically done, because I don't have any more time. So let's just play the game and see how the game looks. And here we are inside the game. I didn't really have time to change our character, so it is just the default of Unreal. And let's look around, we have trees, we have grass, we have some flowers. Let's go within the trail and let's see our beautiful castle that we stole. Yeah, it looks dope. If we walk a little more, we can see this beautiful scenery with this beautiful lake, trees, rocks, a beautiful castle on the background. We can also go ahead and see what we have here on side us. Little trees, rocks, a giant cliff, and here on the other side we also have some other things, like some branches on the ground. And this is basically it. If you also want to learn how to make games, I will leave the link to the video in the description, so you can also check it out and see the tutorial for yourself.